Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Cie, the art and science of watch collection. What I want to do today is to try to identify some watchmakers who I think will be making the top watches, sort of more than high horology, really exceptional horology in the near future, in the next 10 years, we'll say. And not that they haven't done anything in the past, they have, but rather that they will continue to grow and develop. So anyway, let me start with the Gronefeld brothers. The Gronefeld brothers have, if you go to their site, they'll, sorry, we're all sold out. And this is the only, the only limiting thing. The watches they make cover a lot of different types of mechanical horology. And this is the kind of thing I'm looking for. Everything from a 1 hertz second hand to tourbillon to remontoir égalité. I mean, they have all kinds of really great horology, and I see them as a continued source of innovation and some interesting horology. The next one is H. Moser. Now, H. Moser, they sort of started and then they restarted again. They've been around for a while, and then I don't know the exact date, but early 2000s, one of the family members was sort of brought in and sort of as more for a showpiece, one of the Mosers. And they had some really good watches that they created. One of which was one I have, the Henry Double Hairspring, and then with a company called Precision Engineering, which is a movement. They make the movements. Then the Milan family took over, and after a few years of what appeared to be stumbling around, they have just made this incredible company. And the models they have run from sort of the mid-teens in terms of price, around 15,000, 13 maybe even, all the way up to very, very high. But the variety that they have, that Pioneer right there, that one just came out with the retrograde hand, big old retrograde hand. And in part, what they've done, they bought into Agenor. They own part of Agenor, which is one of the premier movement makers, and they have that. Then they have Precision Engineering, so they really have that covered for the different kinds of innovation. Another thing they've done too is that they partnered with some of the newer ones like Studio Underdog. Now, Studio Underdog uh, are inexpensive, very innovative, very interesting company. The way they've done it, I don't know if I'm crazy about it. You can't buy a Studio Underdog separate from a Moser, and the whole thing together is 60,000 Swiss francs, which is sort of a lot. But still, they do have a range of prices. They have innovation, different kinds of innovation, and I think that's one that we can take a look at for really exceptional horology as we're moving along. Now, another one seems that is Armin Strom. The variety of horology that he has is really amazing. He's done a lot of interesting stuff with, for example, a gravity equal force, trying to apply the concept for the problem of constant force, dual time resonance, different kinds of resonance, mirrored force resonance, pure resonance, won a number of Grand Prix awards. I found his stuff. His they start down, I think, around the lower 20,000. I know they're expensive. These are not cheap watches on any of these, but I think they're ones that we can look for. Now, one of the things I have found some fairly affordable Armin Strom on the pre-owned market, but they're not one that has the kind of big drop in price that I like to see for a collector. The next one is, it may surprise a lot of people, but it's Hermes. It surprised me was that they have some very affordable ones, I think one's called the HO8 that's very popular. They own a big hunk of Vaucher manufactured. Most of their movements are made by Vaucher, but they also partner with other companies like Agenor for special kinds of movements, parts of their movements. And I think they're one to really watch. I think they own a hunk of Vaucher, like I said, and I wonder whether the whole thing is owned by this part of the Sandoz family ownership, a whole bunch of things. But that's sort of I think it's the company to really take a look at. The Slim de Hermes Seliquet Lune is really nice. Their watches, the Lune de la Lune. I can't. My pronunciation is terrible. Up on the upper right-hand corner. It was really funny. They had a men's version and a women's version. They looked identical, and both of them won. So I thought that was sort of funny. They both won a Grand Prix award. But this is a company to watch because they're not afraid to innovate. They have some amazingly interesting watches, and you can find a lot of great deals on the pre-owned market with Hermes. They're just being really discovered now by collectors, but I think it would be definitely one to watch. Now, this next one is Chanel, and I'm wearing my Chanel Monsieur. These, like if you think of Chanel, you think of Chanel No. 5 perfume and women's things, Coco Chanel and her designs and so forth, but they also have gotten into horology in very important ways. Beside the Monsieur de Chanel, that was made by their Chanel watch manufacturer in La Chaux-de-Fonds in Switzerland. They own what they call a friendly interest in Romain Gauthier. And a lot of the parts, Romain Gauthier likes to manufacture his own parts. And I think Chanel, with their Chanel watch manufacturer, are really coming out with some very strong horology, very much influenced by Romain Gauthier. In fact, what's called the movement in this one is called the Chanel 1. And Romain Gauthier worked with a team of 8 Chanel watchmakers in their new factory or their new manufacturing plant in La Chaux-de-Fonds, just for making the high levels. Now, what they have done now, which is even more interesting, is that they've created a number of these very special horologies for women. Whether that's going to take or not, I just don't know. For the most part, the complex mechanical horology very much right now has been for men. Whether Chanel can produce more that men are going to like, I don't know. With the fact that they own all of Bell and Ross, they own 1% of Romain Gauthier, they own 1% of F.P. Journe, they own 1% of Kinesi with Tudor. So their Chanel J12 watch is sort of the everyday watch that's fairly affordable. They're around $7,900, I think, for the base one for men. But the movement is based on the Tudor MT 5600. But when you look at it, it looks a lot more like the kind of elements that you find in Romain Gauthier's. You'll find a lot of round bridges in that. This is one to keep an eye out for. They own too much of too many good things. Bell and Ross, they came out with a couple of their super exceptional horology watches. They're like 40,000. I don't know how many people are going to spend 40,000 on a Bell and Ross, but they certainly can do a lot of things with Bell and Ross that would bring them way up in as a sort of a mid-level higher horology. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's really interesting. They certainly they got all of the players in place for this, but this is definitely one to watch. I know they're a women's fashion company, but they've got lots and lots of money, and when they decide to do something right, they know what to do. Now, the final thing I wanted to look at is that here you have, I mean, there are a lot of talent who are going to keep doing things. Gronefeld, they're great watches. They cost so much. So, I mean, they're going over $100,000. I think they're going to keep on producing them. Kari Voutilainen, I don't know. The reason I say that, he seems to be spreading himself awfully thin. What I think that he may come up with, where you're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff, I hope, is with Urban Jurgensen. He bought Urban Jurgensen. He was supposed to have sort of reintroduce him back in 2023. This didn't happen. So he also bought Comble Mine, who makes this great Yellow shape dials. Bought Catton, and now it's Voutilainen and Catton, which make watch cases. Sometimes he's spreading very thin, but I mean, still incredible talent. I just don't know what he's going to do in the future. One that's been overlooked by just about everybody is a German company called Moser Cie. I keep seeing interesting things come out of Moser Cie. The watches they have are fantastic already. I mean, the horology is tip-top horology, not just high horology. I mean, really seriously good horology coming out of that. And innovation like the one there with the globe with all those little windows, those are all different time zones. I mean, it's just an amazing watch. They have an automatic called the Hammermatic. It's a hammer that it works for the automatic rather than a rotor. They got a lot of neat stuff. Another one I think is Andreas Streller. He's got so many really fascinating watches. Again, his are extremely expensive, just like Voutilainen, Gronefeld. F.P. Journe, Francois Paul Journe. He's one of these guys who seems to have a good business sense, and there's a core there too. He what is it? 20% I think is owned by Chanel now, and don't know what Chanel's going to do with it. According to F.P. Journe, he says, well, I don't have anybody in the family, so I might as well, if I want to see the brand to go on, I'll have that. But he keeps coming out with some really, I mean, innovative watches. Finally is Romain Gauthier. Again, this is another one. He makes these fabulous watches, but the price is just way up there. In fact, all of these have extremely high prices. Of all of them, Moritz Grossmann probably has the best entry level, around 20,000, I think, maybe 50, I'm not sure. But the other ones are really excellent and very expensive. So anyway, so that's sort of a peek in the future that I may be wrong, but it's sort of, I'd like to get your opinion a whole lot on this, see what you have to say. Let me know. This is an opportunity to subscribe if you like, Till next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Cie, the art and science of watch collection.